glad you're here today. So we're talking about where you live. In 1 John 4:11 through 13, it says, Beloved, if God so loved us, we ought also to love one another. No man hath seen God at any time. If we love one another, God dwelleth in us, and his love is perfected in us. Hereby know we that we dwell in him, and he in us, because he hath given us of his Spirit. God dwells in us. It says that we dwell in him, and because he has given us his Spirit, he dwells in us. And the word dwell means to abide, to reside, inhabit, remain. It's where we live. I remember growing up, in the summers when we were younger, we were always at the ballpark. We pretty much lived at the ballpark. My brother and I both played, so we felt like a lot of times, we just lived there. And it was the same when my kids were little. It was not uncommon for us to spend an entire weekend at the ballpark all day, up into the night. We felt like we lived there. We all have an address. We all have a place that we call home. And it's where we live. It's where we do life. It's our safe place. It's our happy place. It's the place that we go, we can go home from a long day of work, from a long day of play, or being at the ballpark, or, running endless errands. It's a place that we can regroup and we can rest. It's where we have all of our comforts of home. So God dwells, or he lives in us, and we dwell, or we live in him. It's where we live. Ephesians 3:17 through 19 says that Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye being rooted and grounded in love may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth and length and depth and height, and to know the love of Christ, which passeth knowledge, that ye might be filled with all the fullness of God. So that Christ may dwell in, or live in us, in our hearts by faith, being rooted and grounded, and to know the love of Christ, and to be filled with all the fullness of God. He fills us with his Spirit. He is our happy place. He is our resting place. He is our learning place, our place of peace. He's our place of comfort. He is where we can regroup when we have been through a difficult battle. He is our safe place. He is our home. He is where we live. Galatians 5:25 says, if we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. So we are to live in the Spirit. We are to walk in the Spirit. We are to eat, breathe, sleep, live in the Spirit. We're to do everything in the Spirit. But we don't, and it says we're to live in the Spirit, but also walk in the Spirit. So it goes with us. We carry it everywhere that we go. It goes everywhere. We're to live in the Spirit, but we're to take it with us as we go. You're carrying it with you. And then in Colossians 3:16, it says, let the word of Christ dwell, or live in you richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord. So let the word of God live in you. So eat, sleep, breathe in all that is the word of God. Allowing the word of God to soak into our hearts and into our lives, and to let it take up residence and let it abide in us. That verse said, let the word of God dwell in you. So there's action on our part. It's not just going to come in on its own. It's not going to just live there because it's got to be invited in. Just like you invite someone into your home, we've got to invite the Word of God into our hearts and into our lives. And it's not going to just live in us if we're just pulling out the Word of God when we go to church, or pulling out the Word of God and just letting it sit on the table. It's not going to get into us. It's not going to teach us. We have to put in effort. We have to read it, study it, and we have to allow it to teach us, and then apply those things to our lives. And we have to hold those things in our hearts and in our minds, and it becomes the home for the Word of God. It's where His Word needs to dwell. It's where His Word needs to live. So I hope that you have enjoyed today, and I hope that you think about putting more of the Word of God in you, letting it dwell in you, letting it live in you. And I hope that you have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.